Today, I'm going to explain a horror movie called Cellar Door. Spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. The movie opens with a married couple expecting a baby and excitedly decorating a nursery. The couple consists of Sarah, who is a mathematics professor, and her husband John, who is an architect. The next day at John's workplace, we learn that his ex-girlfriend Alyssa works at the same place as him. She approaches him and wants to join the new house showing with him that day, but he refuses and makes it clear that everything between them is long over. Back at home, Sarah is playing the piano and she suddenly feels a sharp pain in her stomach and desperately calls for her husband, but he is busy with clients and doesn't answer. When John finally sees the flood of missed calls from his wife, he immediately rushes to the hospital where he receives the devastating news that Sarah has lost the baby. The scene cuts to a few days later, where we see that the couple is still struggling to cope with their devastating loss, and now the nursery room only brings them unbearable pain. Sarah says that she can't stay in this house any longer, and John understands completely, so they decide to move out. The couple then begins searching for a new home, but even after a month passes, they still can't find a suitable one. Their realtor eventually advises them to meet with one of her friends who has lived in the town for a long time and knows every property in the area. In the next scene, the couple arrives at a luxurious mansion far away from the city, where they meet a man named Emmett, who warmly welcomes them inside. He tells the couple that the mansion was originally built back in 1918 and that he spent nearly 10 years restoring and renovating it to perfection. The couple is immediately impressed by the breathtaking property, and Emmett invites them to stay for dinner, explaining that he would like to get to know them better. After having a few drinks, Emmett tells them that he can play a rendition of Welcome to the Jungle using only his nipples, and after a few more drinks, Emmett gives the couple a private tour of the mansion, where countless antique items are displayed throughout the house, including several old weapons. By the end of the night, John is drunk far too much and can barely drive, so Emmett tells the couple to spend the night, to which they agree. He also assures them that he has found the perfect house for them and promises they will discuss everything in the morning. The next morning, when the couple wakes up, they cannot find Emmett anywhere. Instead, they discover a letter left behind by him. In it, he reveals that he intends to give them his mansion for free, but on one condition: they must never open the cellar door. It seems like a small price to pay for a new life in such a luxurious mansion. This deeply excites Sarah, but John is very skeptical and says it is too good to be true. However, his wife explains how this place could give them a new chance to try for a baby again, especially after they have spent all their savings on IVF. The couple falls into a tense moment of debate, and in the end, John finally agrees. Soon, their realtor arrives to prepare the contract papers and wishes them good luck. Soon enough, the couple moves into the new place, and they seem very happy to be living in a mansion they would never have been able to afford. A few days later, they hold a housewarming party where several friends and colleagues arrive, including John's ex, Alyssa, though Sarah is unaware of their past. During the celebration, Alyssa approaches John and attempts to seduce him, but he firmly rejects her and makes it clear that he's not interested. Not long after, the party is abruptly interrupted when a deranged man arrives at the house carrying a can of gasoline. He insists that they must burn the entire place down before it destroys them, which shocks everyone. But before John can ask any further questions, the man suddenly leaves without saying another word, and the couple assumes he's just a madman. He just spends too much time on Twitter, honey. The next day, when John arrives at work, he learns that Alyssa has filed harassment charges against him. John is suspended for now until the matter is investigated, so the frustrated man returns home, but he does not tell his wife what happened. In the following days, Sarah leaves for work while John goes on multiple runs throughout the day to calm his mind. While he is alone at home, his attention is drawn to the cellar door, and curiosity begins to take hold as he wonders what is inside. He grabs a tool and desperately attempts to open the door, but he is unsuccessful. The next day, John leaves Alyssa a voice message asking her to call him back. His attention is then shifted to a hidden door in the house, and his curiosity pushes him to dig deeper. He goes to the city archives and asks for the blueprint of the mansion. There, an employee reveals a shocking piece of information, stating that the previous owner of the mansion was not Emmett, but another man named Paul McManus. Emmett used to live there 25 years ago, but one night his wife ran away in the middle of the night, taking their 5-year-old daughter. Since then, no one has ever seen them again. Upon returning home, John studies the blueprint and becomes convinced that the hidden passage leads directly to the cellar. So, He opens it. He crawls inside the narrow crawl space and eventually discovers a barred-up door leading into the cellar. He begins drilling a hole through the door to see what's on the other side, but before he can finish, he hears Sarah's car arriving outside and immediately hurries back upstairs. That night, Alyssa calls John and asks him to meet her, saying she will be waiting for him at their favorite place. As agreed, they meet in an underground parking lot, and John tells Alyssa he cannot understand why this is her favorite place or why she has slandered him. She then calls him a liar, accusing him of leading her on while promising that he would leave his wife. It is revealed that they have been having an affair behind Sarah's back, and even though John acknowledges his fault, he makes it clear that he will not leave his wife. When Alyssa threatens to reveal everything to Sarah, John threatens that he will kill her if she comes near his wife. The next day, John is out for a run while Sarah is home alone when she suddenly feels nauseous. She decides to take a pregnancy test, and it turns out to be positive, which excites her greatly. However, her joy quickly fades when she finds the blueprints of the house under the bed, and she heads to the cellar. At the same time, Alyssa is approaching the house, intending to tell Sarah everything. She enters without knocking and sees pictures of Sarah and John on the wall, which deeply disturbs her. She then walks into the nursery, where she finds the positive pregnancy test, further upsetting her. Meanwhile, Sarah reaches the barricaded cellar door and realizes that her husband has been unsuccessfully trying to break it down. She hears noises and finally returns upstairs, but she does not find Alyssa anywhere, only noticing that the front door is left wide open. While John is returning home, he notices Alyssa's car leaving the house, so he grows worried and begins chasing her in his car. Later that night, John comes home late, and Sarah reveals to him the pregnancy result, which makes him extremely happy. However, she is upset to learn that he was trying to get into the cellar, so John apologizes and promises that it will not happen again. Sarah wants to be sure she can trust her husband, and so to assure her, John blocks the entrance of the cellar with planks and nails it shut. The next day, John receives a call from HR informing him that he's been cleared of all allegations, which brings him great relief. Later, when he returns to work, his boss congratulates him on his return and also mentions that Alyssa has taken some time off, claiming she's focusing on self-care. In the evening, the couple is decorating the nursery when John notices a bullet lodged in the wall and immediately freaks out. He wants to call the police and shares with Sarah how Emmett's wife and daughter disappeared without a trace 25 years ago, suggesting that he may have killed them. But Sarah thinks he is jumping to conclusions and insists there must be a reasonable explanation. She says she doesn't want to ruin their perfect life, so John reluctantly agrees to drop the matter. The scene then cuts to a few days later, where John sees police officers in his office and asks a colleague what happened. It turns out that Alyssa's car has been found, abandoned, and she is now considered missing. Meanwhile, Sarah is hanging out with a neighbor at a bar, talking about the previous residents of the house. The woman tells her that the house has had many owners over the years, but all of them eventually left without any explanation. She also mentions that in the past few weeks, she would regularly cross paths with John during his runs. This shocks Sarah, because he was supposed to be at work at that time, and her attention is drawn to the TV, where there is a missing persons news report about Alyssa. That night, while John is taking a shower, Sarah checks his laptop and finds an email from HR regarding the accusation Alyssa had made against him. She also discovers Alyssa's calls on her husband's phone, which leaves her increasingly suspicious. Later, John is troubled by the bullet he found in the wall and soon learns that the shot was fired from an antique pistol from Emmett's collection. The next morning, he tells Sarah about this, but she refuses to listen and fears that they could lose the house. She does not believe that Emmett could have harmed his family and hidden bodies in the cellar. Just then, their conversation's interrupted by a doorbell, and it turns out to be two detectives investigating Alyssa's disappearance. They ask to speak with John alone, and he tells them about his past relationship with Alyssa and the harassment allegations. He also tells them about their meeting in the parking lot, but doesn't reveal their affair. The detectives then reveal that Alyssa's phone rang near their home the day she disappeared. They ask if anyone can confirm John's location that day, and Sarah, who has been listening, steps in. She claims that her husband was with her the entire time that day, and upon hearing this, the detectives leave without further questions. Afterward, John tries to explain everything to his wife, but she feels betrayed and says she knows that he had been cheating on her. However, she claims she lied to the detectives not for him, but for the sake of their future child. In the evening, John cannot stop thinking about the cellar and becomes convinced that it is hiding something dark. The next day, he manages to find a new address for Paul McManus, the previous owner of the house, and immediately goes there. To his shock, Paul turns out to be the same madman madman who crashed their housewarming party. It is revealed that Paul is now an alcoholic and is struggling to cope with his divorce. He explains that at first, the house seemed like a perfect life, offered at a very low price, but over time, everything began to fall apart. He advises John to open the cellar, but doubts that he is truly ready to uncover the hidden secret. Upon returning home, John wants to open the cellar door, but Sarah refuses, leading to a heated argument between them. In the end, John grabs a crowbar and proceeds to open the door anyway, while his wife tries to stop him. At one point, John drops the crowbar, and Sarah seizes the opportunity to pick it up and knock him out with it. Sometime later, John wakes up on the couch in the living room, and Sarah tells him that she couldn't let him open the cellar door. Then, in a shocking twist, she shows her husband Alyssa's phone, which leaves him horrified. Through a flashback, it is revealed that Sarah had confronted Alyssa in the nursery, pointing a gun at her and ordering her to get out. Alyssa said that everything there should have belonged to her and that Sarah did not deserve it. In a fit of rage, Sarah began shooting Alyssa, and when she still did not die, she finished by strangling her. After that, she wrapped the body and hid it in the crawl space that leads to the cellar. She then drove Alyssa's car away, and the person John had been chasing was not Alyssa, but his wife. After leaving the car in an isolated area, Sarah uploaded some pictures from Alyssa's phone and sent an email to work asking for some time off. In the present, John is stunned to hear all of this and decides to turn his wife into the police, assuring her that he will find her a good lawyer. But she shockingly points a gun at him now and says that if he does, she'll frame him for the crime. For the police, he is an ideal suspect, as he was the one who nailed shut the crawl space where Alyssa is buried. Sarah reveals how she will testify that it was John who murdered Alyssa, and that she only discovered the truth when she found Alyssa's phone among John's belongings. And when she tried to confront him, he attacked her, forcing her to shoot him in self-defense. However, she then adds that if he agrees to stay silent, they can continue their perfect life, and she sees it as a small sacrifice in exchange for the life she has always dreamt of. Now, John has to make a choice, and he is left in a deep moral dilemma over what to do. The scene then cuts to a few weeks later, where we see a baby shower at the mansion, and John is also present, revealing that he has decided to remain silent after all. Among the gifts, the couple finds a letter from Emmett, who has expressed his gratitude to them for turning the building into a family estate. Emmett's gift is a key to the cellar, and he has stated that whether to use it or not is entirely up to the couple. However, Emmett is certain that the couple already knows what lies inside. But Alyssa put that body in there after Emmett lived there, and long after Paul lived there, so what's the evil they were all talking about? I mean, that was a good twist, but I don't think that made sense.